Hey, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 17th of April, 2025. Um, we have a few people here, but a few less than normal. I think it's because it's a holiday tomorrow, Good Friday. So we'll hopefully make this a short one and we can get back to whatever else we want to work on. So if anyone wants to say hi who hasn't said hi before, we always have a chance to give people to say introductions, I guess, if you want to. Anyone? If not, then we will move on. Okay. So we've been doing a lot of work to migrate stuff out of the Kubeflow repo. Now we haven't removed the code from Kubeflow/Kubeflow yet, but we've moved some of the commits, for all the commits for dashboard related stuff. And so I just want to highlight that the future of the dashboard repo is it's still being finalized, but the way it's probably going to work is that all of the stuff that's kind of, well, right now, all the dashboard related things, including profile controller and other things like that, are in here. But I expect that also stuff like, there's a couple of things that are being kind of authored in the manifest repo that really shouldn't be there. Stuff around like auth and Istio configs and things like that. I imagine that will also move into here. The reason being that, strictly speaking, the manifests are not meant to integrate with any particular system. And dashboard will become but dashboard as a component, so it's allowed to. So like in the sense that, pipelines is allowed to integrate with S3, but manifests are not. That's kind of the general principle of the manifest repo, is that it has to be neutral. So that's not the only reason. That's one reason, because it ensures neutrality. The other reason is that dashboard is going to be optional. Very clearly it already is. Red Hat, for example, I know their distribution doesn't use the dashboard, for example, but it needs to be more clear that other people can do the same thing. And so what that means is that it's going to be, the dashboard will define almost the API of how to do multi-user, multi-tenancy things. You don't have to use Istio if you don't want to, but you probably should if you're not doing crazy stuff. But but stuff like, oh, are you going to use OAuth2 proxy index? Are you going to use the dashboard as the UI? Pretty much what it will be instead, I think, and we're still kind of finalizing this, is that it will be, just like you can comment out any particular component in the example manifest, you'll be able to comment out the dashboard and replace it with your own thing, with auth and UI and other things like that, which will make making distributions a bit easier for people, because it'll be more clear that they understand. It's not easy to do because you still have to build the thing, but like the API in my mind would be a UI that iframes. There is a piece of JavaScript that will need to exist in your UI to inject stuff, so that will probably have to be in whatever your UI is, but that's fine. And then the other part would be user ID headers, and group ID headers are how you, with a sidecar service mesh type thing, to inject the auth. And you can inject it however you like. You can inject it using some Amazon product, or you could inject it using an Istio thing like what we're doing in here. And so the reason why this is important to us as a community is because notebooks, that is, we do maintain the dashboard for historical reasons, but also we want to be able to have a clear path for new people who only want to use Notebooks 2.0 to use Notebooks 2.0. And so what that will be is the steps, if you will. So if people, the minimum, to get a minimum viable Notebooks 2.0 would be deploy the dashboard component, install Istio, install Cert Manager, install Istio, install the dashboard with the OAuth2 proxy DEX, and then go to the Kubeflow Notebooks repo and install workspaces, right? So that's going to be the steps that we tell people. Of course, Notebooks 2.0 is going to be used by, I imagine, almost every Kubernetes-based AI platform. I imagine it will. But like, what I mean is, like, for the open source version, which is just a reference almost, if you know, that's what that's going to be. Of course, this also integrates with other components. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it's not doesn't really affect end users, because it's just almost a movement of things. Because if you're already using Kubeflow, you're using it through whatever you're using it, and this only just makes it easier to do. It just makes stuff a bit more clean. Okay. If people have comments or thoughts about that, then you can feel free to raise them now if you want, or we can talk about them later. But I just wanted to say that'll take a couple of months probably. But oh yeah, that's how it relates. Sorry, I forgot. That we're currently migrating the code. So we've got Andy, Milland, and a few others working on. So we moved all the actual code, not the manifest yet, the code. Well, the manifest for these components are in here, but not the manifest for what we just talked about. But they now need to set up the release process on here, because we didn't migrate any of the actions, because they obviously aren't exactly the same. They don't work on the new repo, and so I just wanted to highlight that work is happening. I don't think we need more people working on it. If you really want to do it, I do. It is interesting to know about how the dashboard works. Obviously, we are still in the process of hopefully finishing this rewrite, because this old one is using Polymer. It's very out of date and very bad. I also want to highlight that the commits do link back to the old repo. It's very clever how we did it. We rewrote the commit history. We also filtered the commit history so that it only includes the commits that are relevant to this. So we're going to do the same thing for Notebooks 1.0 as well. And we did it in main on the dashboard, but we didn't do it. We're not going to do it on main for Notebooks. We're going to have a V1, which we already have. That's where these commits are going to go. And the goal is to remove the V1 branch at some point, or archive the V1 branch at some point, and have V2, once we're ready to release, come into main. And you know what I mean? So I just want to highlight that. And what that means is that some of the things that we didn't move in the dashboard include the Volumes web app. So we're going to have to try and mimic the abilities of the Volumes web app in the 2.0 UI, which we've already got the plans to do. I just wanted to say that. And I think the tensor boards are going away entirely, and unless someone really, really wants them, and is willing to maintain it. And what's the other one? I think that's mainly it on the notebook side. Yeah, that's mainly it on the notebooks. Okay, so any questions about the migration stuff or things like that? Cool. Dashboard inconsistency. This is just something I wanted to highlight, but we can go on that when we've got more people. If someone wants to look at this, someone raised an issue a long time ago that in the dashboard you can get this kind of inconsistent iframe browsing issue, which again, we'll probably fix it in the new repo once we do that, but it's kind of complicated because effectively the iframe itself is kind of isolated because of the way Chrome works, and so it doesn't, when you click, because we've allowed certain links to navigate inside the iframe, you can end up in a weird situation where the iframe is not aligned with what the outer layer thinks it is. If you know what I mean. So like that, it's fundamentally just an issue with how we've implemented it, so we can fix it in the new rewrite, but it's just as a patch, I guess we need to make a thing which is constantly checking whether the iframe is actually the path that it expects and then moving the outer page to there. But then the problem is Chrome doesn't let you move pages without clicks. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just all a big mess. So if you are an expert in that kind of web stuff, maybe help out. I think someone did raise a PR for one of the issues, but there's a couple of other issues. Okay. The container registry, we've already done this. We don't need that anymore. That just means because we moved all the base. So yeah, actually I will just highlight this for people. If you are deriving from our official images, please move to the GHCR versions. All of the old tags are still there. We just now pull from here because there's no limits on this. And that's where we'll be pushing all new ones. There'll be no old ones going into the old Docker ones anymore. Okay, if you have people who want to know about Notebooks 2.0, please share this issue 85 on Kubeflow/notebooks. Also, if you haven't starred the Notebooks repo, please star it. There's only 32 stars. It's a bit sad because we haven't had any code in here publicly to make clear. So it has 32 is quite remarkable. But well, Notebooks 2.0, but it's on a secret branch. So anyway, okay. We've already done that. Oh no, we haven't done this. So this is a task actually, for someone who just wants a quick task in the new 2.0 run, which is that because we've now migrated all the base images, we have just a very small number of samples. I mean, I can do this in the pull request that I'm about to do, but I think there must be a few others as well. I think, no, maybe it's only one. Maybe it's only in our controller config. Oh, no, there's other places as well. We just need to make sure that everywhere there's an end-to-end test or anything like that that references an image, that we move it to both the 110 version, because it's newer, obviously, and or maybe make it as an example with having both. You know, that's the idea of this whole thing. And move it off docker.io to ghcr.io. So I mean, I can do this change as well, but it might break some of the tests if we just change it without thinking about it. So just a side note, and these do need to be real images, just to be very clear, because this is an example. Okay. So if someone wants to help with that, or I can just do that because I'm about to make a pull request because of the secret mounting. So we've already done the secret mounting. I merged a PR, which I just want to highlight because it's important for everyone who's making a controller in any capacity, is that we merged a fix based off what I did in external secrets here into the workspace controller, which prevents the madness of, like I'll show you just based off this Desmos graph. This is because and if you didn't know, the default behavior of failure retries in controllers is this red one. So retry number is the X, and Y in this case is the number of seconds interval between a retry. So the the default behavior of the controller runtime is to do these insane number of retries in the first 2 seconds, which if you're doing anything expensive at all, yes, this is I'm assuming this was done because of, like, you know, trying to avoid race conditions and just to spam test it. But if what you're trying to do is complicated to calculate at all, like in our case, there is some complexity. It's not as bad as external secrets where they actually go off to external vendor APIs and cost lots of money. Because again, when it fails, it may not be in a state where the goal is to retry until it's in a state where it could be reconciled, right? So this is our new retry interval with seconds on the right still. So we wait 1 second. So we never wait less than 1 second before trying again. We wait 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds. And the reason for this in our case is mainly because at least we've now got a couple of conditions where we intentionally fail a reconcile, even though it might take a while for us to figure out what went wrong. You know, like this is kind of, and so we don't want to spam the UI with issues. For example, if a secret is missing, that's the case where we have to wait because the Kubernetes control plane doesn't update an event because sadly pod mounting a secret that doesn't exist is told to you by the event rather than by any description of the pod. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight this. So if you're in another project, you can play around with the parameters however you want, but this is just something to know. If you have a controller, this is the default behavior. This is obviously insane. And in our case, we also want it to be this because in the future, we're going to be doing VMs. And obviously spamming VM issuing commands on ECA2 is both expensive and silly. And on, you know, things like that. So, okay. Last part here is I wanted to talk about what we are going to do long term. Of course, this is really not that great for, there's only like 10 people here, but the long term, I want to make sure that we have a path for people to become like to get more ownership of the project in terms of Notebooks 2.0 especially. And I just wanted to propose, and people can say their ideas, that we again, we're going to name them different things, but this is what Volcano does. We already have the idea of a member, that's GitHub membership, Kubeflow itself. Then we have some other level, which is going to be, you have access to approve something under some subsection, you know, and maintainer, they have a nice table, let me show you. So like the idea is the two things that I'm wanting to take from this are the way that you get to the next level and the responsibility idea and the privileges. So except owner is probably always going to be the leads of the working group, but that's separate. So like member, pretty obvious, doesn't give you any permissions other than the ability to help LGTM and things like that. Approver, as long as 2 maintainers, which is this new level. So maybe let's start with that. So the maintainers, having top level, I don't know, but they have, yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah, they have top level approver on the project for a specific component like notebooks. The idea here is that these people are heavily involved in the kind of overall making sure that things make sense. You know, like a feature that needs a front end and back end change, that they help orchestrate that happening at the same time, so that we don't end up with a misalignment, whatever, right? And helping cut releases as well. These people, and so. These people obviously are appointed by the leads, in our case, working group leads. And then under that, they also can appoint approvers, which again, once you've got 2 maintainers who agree and you have some experience with a specific area, then you can, because the idea here is who can actually affect change in the project, who can put code into the project. And right now, obviously, it's only really me and Eder, and so that's not great. So but I also don't want to just give random people access, obviously, especially this early on in the project. So if people have ideas, I think having 3 levels does make sense, where the owners are really more of an appointed by the KSC kind of thing, rather than coming through this. But yeah, I don't know. Anyone have any ideas here? Cool. If not,
It seems like this same thing as Kubernetes, right? Everyone, the Pro also does the same.
do we have? Wait, does Kubernetes have an additional level between like super owners and approvers?
Uh, Not that I've know of. Okay,
Yeah,
owners and
like these
maintainers
are
are
more
pretty
like
much same. Yeah,
yeah. I think they only have like
they have approvers
effectively
and
yeah
reviewers and owners. Yeah,
yeah, and I mean that's we're gonna have that as well. Um, yeah, it's just like I do think that approach doesn't perfectly work. Their approach mainly because like reviewing approving is definitely needs to be reviewed by someone who knows what's going on with the strategic vision of a project, but like reviewing also kind of like it's how you build new contributors, and they need to actually be quite like reviewing is honestly harder than approving a lot of the time, right? Like if I trust my reviewers actually did review things correctly, the idea of an approver is just like a final stamp being like, yes, I'm like a really senior engineer. I know what I'm doing, and I can see that this reviewer correctly reviewed this. And I should, and the goal is that you trust the reviewer enough eventually that, that's kind of the goal. Whereas, like, especially, I just think that sometimes that breaks down in Kubernetes and even in our project as well, where like we try and make the reviewers the junior position when in actuality the reviewing part is actually the harder thing, right? It's more that it's the thing. Of course, it comes from Google's internal processes where reviews are just so innate to everyone, and code reviewing is a skill, right? It just actually just is a skill, right? Like, and I think that as we've distanced ourselves from Google's kind of internal processes, we have lost a bit of that, and Kubernetes as well. But that's so in our case, I just want to make sure that everyone knows we want people to be approvers, but uh, having the ability to click the final button to approve is only, I think, the most valuable thing people can do for the project is participating in these other things, right? It's like helping with development and release planning. That's like the responsibility of that level, not just, oh, you can click the button to approve, right? And then there's, and then and this one at this level, you do need to actually review and things like that. Like the even yeah. Anyway, um, cool. Okay, I just wanted to bring this up one more time, just the last part, and then we can move to the stand up. Is that I really think this is a really valuable feature for the workspaces, which is some way to like because these tools don't have their own UI and are unlikely to get their own UI, um, even just so that people can view, not even run new ones, just like see jobs that are already existing in their workspace, in their namespace profile, sorry. I think this is going to massively improve adoption of the project because, it lets an admin who's looking at the resource utilization look and be like, oh, why is there a pod using 100 GPUs? Like, why is there a job using 100 GPUs here? That's really expensive. And then they look at it and they go, oh, it's this, it's running actually that thing. Or even just something simple like, oh, I submitted a job in the notebook, right? But because it's easier to build this than it is to build the Jupyter Lab thing that we're talking about, we can just have a list object just like we do for secrets and things. But I think the idea here is that we make an abstracted jobs tab, which has plugins for each major job tool, some of which are Spark ones like our one, MPI one, Trainer. Anyway, I just think if people have particular ideas here, um, obviously this may not make it into the first release, but I just wanted to say this is I get it asked of me so much, which is, oh, I'm using training operator, I'm using MPI operator. And then they look at Kubeflow and see the UI and assume that it's going to be in the UI, but it's not. Right. And this is yeah, I don't know. Anyone have any feelings here? No? Yes? Maybe? Cool. UI people, like what would you want here? Do you have opinions? Maybe? Jenny? I don't know. Jenny, do you have an opinion on what like you think a user would like? How would you, if you were designing a just for the purely the purpose of managers and knowledge and admins and people and also just users like just seeing the results of their job? What would be the minimum viable thing there? Would it just be a list of? I think you're muted, by the way.
So can you just give me a little bit more context here? So we want to just add a tab there
Just like we've got a
to
tab
show.
for volumes and now secrets on the sidebar. I think this may not make it the first release, but I just want to get your mind around it so that when we do. So the idea here is that these are all CRD based operators. They don't have, so you interact with them using a kubectl, and or maybe a Python SDK. But once the job is running, it's a CID in the cluster. So we can easily just make the workspace backend list them, and we can have, and since there's like 20 different kinds of jobs, jobs being an abstracted kind of, again, not including pipelines, so that is separate. So pipeline, I guess we could include pipelines there, but that's, I don't think what people want. The idea is that just so that we can give users, when they run a job from their notebook or anywhere else, the ability to see them. It just integrates the Kubeflow platform a little bit more. That's the only thing. But like the feature set would just be some kind of pluggable table. Like obviously the initial response would be just, oh, just make a table like our existing ones, but maybe that's not the best way to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm not too familiar at this point with these CRs, so I can't speak for like how like what kind of data is there at the moment and how we might want to show that. But is there somewhere is there a good place to kind of learn more about that? And yeah, maybe we can continue this discussion.
They're all, just very briefly, they're all pod driven, right? So they all have a CRD which manages pods in some way. So I imagine that that's the thing that we would visualize, both the outer CRD, which is just managing the job that was submitted, and then that has some state, and we need to extract the state out in whatever format the job has. I'll just put it here just to troll people. Argo workflows, question mark, that one as well. They already have their own UI though. No. We could embed some of their code, maybe, I don't know. But like it's like yeah, pretty much at the very minimum, I think people would just want to understand, because it's a resource being used in their workspace, right, in their namespace, and just like monitor all the jobs succeeded or failed, and if not, where did it fail and why, you know, because you can do that with kubectl, but it's really painful. Right? That's just the.
Oh, I see. So this sidebar would just provide some more metrics as far as like what's going on in their
Well, it's more like
in the workspace.
at first, the minimum feature I think is just, oh, it's just a list of all of these CRD types that we are aware of that are jobs, and it just says job like was created on this time, job status. We have some kind of pluggable feature function which just says how to extract a job status. You know what I mean? And then if it is running, then we try and find the pods that it's using to run, right? And when you click on a job, because like I just have so many people ask me, they're like, oh, I've submitted this job with training operator, but I have to use kubectl to look at it, you know, like it's
to see all that data you're saying. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So yeah, I think a sidebar is an interesting idea. I mean, ideally if like a user could like click on something and then like see more information without like cluttering too much like the existing screen that they're navigating from, that would be great. But yeah, it's a great question, and yeah, I'm glad to continue this discussion. Like if you want to do it in a thread or anywhere else, just let me know.
Just having it in the back of your mind for now, because it's not going to be the first priority. It's just it helps make a cohesive platform with the Kubeflow system, but also we're going to build so much of what is necessary to do this with our own workspace stuff, like from an UI element perspective, that if we can just try to, you know, just use the existing table even just as the first step, you know, like, and then
That totally makes sense. Thanks so much for the extra context there, Matthew. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, if you disagree with the idea as well, that's always okay as well. Like it's just, and we also have to have buy-in from these working groups. But since they're not interested in making UIs, I think that's because again, they don't want to be integrated with because as soon as you have a UI for this, you need auth, right? And they don't necessarily want to have a hard dependency on auth like we do.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, because like this is like the thing where these ones are the parts of Kubeflow that you actually, no, the bottom one's not Kubeflow actually, but these three don't actually, they're fully standalone because they're CIDs. They can be used in the context of profiles, but this, as soon as we have a UI, we need user-facing auth, right? You know, OIDC or whatever. You know, so that's kind of anyway. Oh, cool. So let's move down to this stand-up-y thing. I'll go last, but let's say like, see, I already did partial what I did. Secrets, controller. Didn't quite get time to. My very brief thing is that what I'm working on is I won't say much, is I'm going to get this PR merged. And this will affect you, Hashad, which is this controller one. But to fix this, I am doing what we discussed here in the end, which is I'm going to make it fail, like so that it retries backing off. But before I can do that, I'm like making it fail is a little bit complicated because of the way that I have to make it still update the status to pending of the workspace. But the thing that I'm doing that will affect you is that I'm going to add some tests for the state so that we don't integration test, so that we don't have like insane regression there, because this is such a complicated thing to get to that state that I think I'm only going to put one integration test, but then hopefully when you do your refactoring, you can add other ones for the other states that we discover, you know. So, but I'm just going to add, at a minimum, I'm going to add one which says when there's a secret missing, I expect the state to say secret missing. You know what I mean? Even though that because the way that it extracts that state is kind of complicated. So I just want to check that because I think if we manage to get to that one working, it's likely that a lot of the other ones work too. It's kind of, but then also you can do whatever you want, and it shows you how to make a integration test. I don't know if you're okay with that, right? Or you haven't made any code yet?
No, not yet.
No, cool, yeah.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
And what I'm referring to, your one is
the state one. Yeah.
This one, yeah, this issue here because there's a few. Some of this I actually wonder if it would also be propagated through events. You know, like I wonder. Of course, for the non-main containers, we still need to handle those. But for the for some of them, I just imagine that events would be raised. I don't know though. So it's because now we're capturing pod events as well, right? So that's just definitely something to consider if that happens. But we still definitely need to handle the main and non-main containers for the image pull-off and things, because those probably aren't. Cool. Okay. What is happening here? Is this? Okay. Paulo. I think he's here. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello. So yeah, I opened the PR just with updating our README for the front end for new people joining, to have a updated way to run the web application easily, and the prerequisites to do that. Also reviewed some PRs related to the workspace kind listing and the Patternfly version update. And I'm also looking into Hans' work on the properties step, which will be the last step. This is not listed there because there is not a PR yet, but it's the last step for the workspace creation wizard. And I'm working on some UI fixes, like adding the drawer on the wizard as well. I did not have much progress on that yet, but hope to have for next week.
Cool. By the way, for the quick question about that guide, are we using NVM or anything like that to manage the node versions?
No.
Like, do we have
not particularly? I mean,
should we,
anyone could use it.
I'm not saying we should, but should we?
I mean, anyone could use it locally, but we just specify the version. The README was not merged yet. It can just be a little bit
hard to get a specific version, right? You know, that's my only concern if we end up having a hard dependency on a specific version. But
yeah, usually the major version is the one that matters. My PR is not merged there yet. I've updated with the NPM and Node versions recommended.
Because then if we do it, we can like put it in a node version file, right? Like in the .node version of the root of the repo. I don't know. It's I'm fine either way. As long as we actually have this be correct, because sometimes these get out of date when people change things and forget to change them and things like that. That's what I've just seen.
Yeah, that's a good discussion actually. I don't know if it's better. I mean, it does seem more organized to do this way, but at the same time, you would require the developer to use NVM, and you could have already another system locally.
I'll agree that, I mean, a lot of systems do integrate with that node version file though. But the other thing is that, quick question around the README. Are we using, just because this is for everyone to agree, I guess, what are we using the READMEs that live within these folders for, right? I guess, is it development or is it overviewing? Or, because they're kind of three separate components. Like obviously in the backend, we've got, you know, API overviews and some sample things. Do we have a separate developing or contributing guide under each one? We have a root contributing guide. Maybe we don't. Do we not? Huh. We probably need to wait. How do we not have one? We have one in this one, but not the other one. Huh. We need to cherry
Maybe
pick that.
just
Okay. Oh, that's gonna cause. Oh, we can't cherry pick. That's gonna cause insane line merging problems otherwise. Oh. Okay. I don't want to force push and rebase either. Okay. So maybe we just need to copy and. Maybe we need to make a contributing file which links back to the main. That's probably what we need to do, right? In the root of our one. And so, because this is important for people to know that they have to do this and what the options are for scopes. You know, that's kind of, the problem is that we're kind of developing in this V2 branch. I guess a quick question for everyone here. How do we want to do this migration? Obviously, I don't want to do it. I want to keep the commits, so I'm going to keep the commits in there, and we'll probably do it the same way we did it for the dashboard migration with a single merge commit at the head with all the old migration on there, like a merge commit, so that because the lineages are not the same, you know? So that's probably the simplest way, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Cool. So again, maybe we should add a contributing guide at the root of our V2, or maybe we shouldn't. What do you think? I guess it doesn't matter.
I think that's a great idea for consistency. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that's cool. I think we definitely want to have that Semver syntax in there somewhere, just so contributors know how to format their their commits.
Yeah, because it's in main, but it's not in V2. You know, that's my only right.
I think you were the author on the main one, so you should add it to the.
Oh, I mean, I can do it, but it's like just a question of then it becomes like out of date. What I might do is just add a contributing file here which says, "Please see the main contributing file." Because this also contributing applies to both V1 and V2, like because obviously PVC and notebooks and TV are only going to be in the V1 branch. Anyway, I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry,
that may
I've
work.
derailed your thing here. Okay, so what's blocking you, and what are you going to do this week or next week? Sorry, Polo.
Yeah, nothing blocking me so far.
So do you need someone to review
also,
something?
Yeah, I asked Eder to give a final approval for his review and approval for the PRs I reviewed already, because he's the one who has the permission at the end. And I plan to work on organizing a few GitHub issues and internal Red Hat Jiras to track the tests that we're working on.
We have this project thing, but people don't use it. Hard to use, I think, is the problem because we need admins to use it or something. Like, is this something that you would find valuable, or like the ability to triage issues? Like we've still filtered them by. Would this be valuable to you, like these kind of things, or and with area labels?
Yeah, I think I know. This board view is actually really nice, so that everyone can kind of see what they're working on and like the status of it. I think that'd be a good idea to maybe use that.
Yeah, because the issue right now is we're trying to figure out how we can let people. So the labeling is when you've got admin on the repo is really easy because I can just click these buttons, right? But the issue is that adding labels is unfortunately in the way that we use Prowl a security vulnerability because the labels are used for approval. And if a label is there, then Prowl will merge approve label and LGTM label are there, then Prowl will merge the PR, you know? And so this is kind of the problem. So like it is trivial because you can just go in here and go, oh yeah, this is about area that, and you can just go /area whatever, you know. But it's just a little bit more tedious than going down the list. I think we have some people who are coming on board that are more project managery that can help us with that, but I don't know if.
Yeah, I'm sure Adrian would like to help with that. I mentioned it before.
Yeah. So like,
yeah, that's a great action item.
Yeah, so like, and so people who have kind of needs to visualize things overall, obviously would include me and other people, but like, thinking about how the way we did this is just based off the labels. You know, you can filter by labels and you can also filter by people if you know what you're doing with the searches, I think. But we don't really do assigning and other things like that right now. And also we might want to have things like a special view for specifically complicated things, you know, like where there's like 5, like maybe for the front end, we talked about maybe for the maybe we need a label for those things, right? Painful, like, I don't know. I just wonder, like, Paulo, you said you were doing this stuff. Was this kind of, would you be able to work within this context or not? Oh, I know the bigger problem is that you can't move things between triage.
Yeah, I think the whole problem is the permission, right?
Yeah. The issue is to
I don't even know
fundamentally
if I can see the board, to be honest. Let me check.
the board's public, I believe, but I think the issue is wait, can I change the settings? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Manage access. Is this for the repo? Oh, no, this is for the project. Okay, no, so you should be able to write. Okay, so the labels you won't be able to do because that's a repo permission. But for the part that matters, who do we think should be doing that? I guess we can add them. So like this part over here, like so effectively the way this works, the idea is that everything comes in as either I filter them by issue and PR here, and this is just both issues and PRs. Needs triage. The idea here is to triage them into is the issue or PR of not PR, but is the issue a valid issue? If it is, then we say it's either in discussion or we're actually going to do it. We put it into the task to do backlog, if you will. And then we move it into here once it's actually being worked on. And then obviously done, we can probably archive all these. And we move it to done,
Yeah,
right?
It would be useful for me to be able to change the statuses for the issues as we are merging the PRs.
I can just give you that permission if you want. And then you'll also be able to drag. So the way that usually you drag them here is usually where I go to like label them, by it's interesting that this one ends up with priority needs triage, but this one didn't. Oh, it's going to be because that's the new okay, anything that was created after the new issue template is probably going to get that one, except blank issues won't either. Okay. So I can give who needs permission to do that. I'm fine with a couple of people from this call having permission if you would like.
Yeah, if you could give it to me too, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Can you just ping your what is it called? GitHub username into the
yes.
channel. And also so what you'll be able to do is for milestones and label. So milestones you can do with /milestone that name, I believe. You might need to be a member. Is everyone here a member of the GitHub org?
I am.
I think
Jenny,
so.
you are? Yep.
I believe so.
Okay, cool. That's good. Just make sure. So you should be able to do /milestone and /label then with area. So /area. So I think the two things we should try and do is if any time when there is no. Wait a second. I just realized we can actually do this through issue templates as well, right? Like we could the drop.
I think we've definitely done it through like the board view too. You can just kind of move it over, like drag it over to a different column, and it will update the
that's for the like stage, because it's like stage, and then there's the labels because it's like you want to be able to say.
Oh yeah.
That's because like from your perspective, I imagine you'd say like, oh, I want to look at all the front end issues, and so you'd say area /front end, but there's none currently labeled with that, in fact, right? So
we should have them. Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's really tedious, but and I think we can. Some of it could be slightly automated with So I'll give you that permission in 2 seconds, but let me just see what I mean. It's like when you click new issue, I don't think unless we created very painfully sub ones of these for each of the categories of thing, and then what about if it's both? You know what I mean? Like that. So then suddenly we have the issue, which is really what we should be telling people to do is uncomment one of the, because what you get now is you get kind, if you select bug, you get kind bug, priority needs triage, and then it's black, so it's highlighting in that list for ones that need to be prioritized. And then we need to add a area, you know what I mean? But then the user might not think about it in the context of an area, right? They probably are like, they don't know that they don't know what the area is that caused the bug or the feature that they want. You know, they probably needs all areas. You know, they might be like, oh, I want to. But I think that's probably still going to have to be us, right? So I guess when an issue has a black needs triage, I guess it means agree to accept the issue by moving it to do, or in discussion if it needs further clarification or verification if it's an issue, and then prioritize it maybe by doing slash priority space P0 through 5, and then, but not right now because we're unreleased, but you know. And then, but the main thing is about labeling area. So the way everyone in this call should be able to go, like for example, let's just do one to confirm. So can someone on this call, I'll link this project, give me a second. Okay, project 62. So can someone, let's do, so what areas do we have? We have docs, control, let's try label 211 as docs. So someone, oh no, let's not do this one. Sorry, let's avoid that one. That one's gonna ping people who we don't want to ping. Yeah, let's do this. Oh, that's a pull request. Okay, I'm gonna look at issues. So I usually filter by issues for these ones. So what's the fun one here? Some of these are kind of old because they're sorted inversely by age, and now we've moved all the old issues. So the new one's gonna be at the bottom. So do you want to do this one? Someone front end person on, so 259, and then just confirm that you can go slash area. Whoa.
Oh, cool. Oh, so yeah, I don't have write permissions to edit like in that view, but if we just do area and comment, that should work.
So yeah, you just kind of click
comment
in there,
label.
and then yeah, and so the areas that you're able to do are anything which has the slash area label at the beginning, and the way you can check those is by going to labels and then going down here. So
but I think I
just
think this one, we don't have a front end label at the moment.
don't we? What?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we do. Area front end.
Oh, it's there. Oh, awesome. Okay, I didn't see it. Thank you. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick and see if that works.
And if it doesn't work, we can fix prior to do it.
Cool. That's 259 you're looking at. Okay, 259.
Yeah, let's try that. And then also while you're doing that,
I tested on another one and it worked for me.
And so you're a member, right? And so Jenny is a member as well, right? I hope. Okay, so
yes, I am. It just worked for me too. So yeah,
awesome.
Thank you.
And in fact, I think it works for non-members because it's so that people can triage their own issues. So I don't think we should put it in the template because users will just label things randomly without knowing what they actually are. You know what I mean? So I think the goal is that we just are triaging, because the two purposes of triage are to figure out what the area is so that we know who to assign it to, and if it's an invalid bug or not, triaging in that sense, and how important it is, then it's or asking for clarification. So that's the in discussion versus to do, and then also, but for reference, people can go slash priority. We haven't got the pro. Oh, we do. No, we don't. Okay, and then project. I think to do project, you might have to go label. Let me just check. Is project one of them? I'm just checking. It is. No. That's something else. Yeah, no, that's not possible. Okay. So, but label should also work for project. So if someone wants to try doing area committee, so yeah, so we can add new ones as well, but I think for project you should be able to go slash project v2 if you want, although maybe that's easy to do with the milestones. Maybe no, that's a note. It does make sense to do v1 and v2 for now, I think, but maybe not. That one's not as important. The way I was using it was just so that I could filter on the overall boards, you know, like this. So this one only shows v1 projects and this one only shows v2. So does someone want to try just seeing if label this, if this command works? I'll ping it in the chat. Just blank. is this so weirdly formatted? Okay, well, you get what I'm doing. I don't know. It's a link in that, sadly, but
I tried that, but it didn't work.
okay, what did it say, or did it?
I'll send you the link.
Okay, I can fix. That's the wrong repo, ironically. I can fix this later. This is actually under Google Cloud Platform, test infra. What is this? Plugins. Label, additional labels. Interesting. I think it'll be possible to do that. So we might actually be able to add area as well, or other ones like that. I'd have to check. But I'll find a way to give you that permission. Okay. And so just in our case, we could also have. We could also just do an area. We could just do area NB2, NB1. You know what I mean? Like we could also just make it that. Like maybe that's easier. I don't know. What do you? That's probably the easiest way, right? Because you can have multiple areas on a single. So if I do that right now, I'll just make that label. That's simplest solution. Okay. And then I'll swap the board to do that. Oh, let me just make you guys writers on the board. Hashad, do you want to be a writer here, or do you not?
I'm not sure as of now. Maybe Adriel would
Okay.
be the right person. If you want his GitHub ID, I'll send it to you.
Okay, we'll just do these two for now, and they can help out. Okay. So hopefully this is, sorry for kind of derailing the stand up a little bit, but I think this is I think this is probably useful for long-term stuff we're doing here. I'm not saying that you guys have to do this either, right? Like if this workflow helps people, then we should all commit to collaborating on getting things labeled and triaged, especially once 2.0 gets released. I think it's going to get crazy because I think it's going to be quite a popular tool. so, yeah. Okay,
yeah, definitely. I think this is great. This is great for tracking and organization. So yeah, thanks for bringing this up.
What I'll do is I'm going to rename the project label to area/notebooks v2, because that will keep all the existing ones with that label having that label. And it means that then someone can just do a quick test with that. Issues, labels, project. Okay, so project v1. Oh, interesting. Project repo setup. Huh, whatever. Okay, area. How do you want it to be? Notebooks v2, v1, or do you want it to just be like v1?
I think project, like I don't know if anyone else has like strong opinions on this, but I feel like project, I feel like communicates like which repo better. And like, I don't know, for area, we might not want to clutter because area is like specifically like docs front end, back end.
The issue
So yeah,
is that I don't know if we have the ability to.
I think if you write /project, it will actually become a GitHub project.
It tries
board.
to assign it to the. The issue is we can't use /project,
Oh.
but we and effectively you would have to use label /something. And let me just check here. So this is the overall label.
I think if you have a slash in the label itself, then it becomes its own label. That's why it's the problem. Like if it was label project -notebook v1, then it would have just worked.
Oh, interesting.
Possible that would never have worked though. Like, hide query, no. Like so, like what additional? Because this up here, additional labels. What is that? Where is that coming from? It's coming from here. That's not. Where is this coming from then? What is that? Okay, well we need to probably get back to people's things. Okay, anyway, so I'm just gonna make it area for now. because it will
Yeah,
be,
no worries at all.
it's actually, because we just solved the problem. And so as I'm saying, do you want to make it area notebooks v1 or project v1? Oh, that's a bit weird. But like area NB v1 or just v1, right? It feels like just that's good enough, right?
Yeah, that's nice. That's, yeah,
Yeah.
very dry.
Area version that, and then I'll make this one, yeah, it's fine, we do that. And then area v2. Notebooks v2. And then make this one area this is a bit weird, but whatever. Okay, sure. It's fine, I guess. Okay, okay, so then that should work now. And then you should also have the ability to move things around, hopefully. So now let's come back to this. We've only got like 2 minutes. Okay, Jenny, sorry, what have you been working on? Oh my gosh.
No problem. So yeah, I have a PR up to upgrade Patternfly to the latest release version. So that's 6.2, and that's going to give us all the latest bug fixes and updates that have just gone in to that release that went out last week. So yeah, Paolo approved. So thanks, Paolo. And then I think just waiting on Eder to merge. But yeah, otherwise it's good to go. Other than that, Hen reached out to me yesterday. She's not here today, but she's working on the final step of the workspace creation UI. So it looks great. She asked me some UI questions about it. So once she gives me access to her branch, I'll pull it down and help her make those fixes. Otherwise, yeah, continuing on those UI enhancements there. Yeah, just open some issues there to track what else we need to fix. But those are a bit lower priority at the moment. And yeah, that's it for me. As always, yeah, please let me know if there's anything I can review or test, or if you have any UI related questions, or yeah, burning things you would like to know, please, yeah, reach out to me. And yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Awesome. And so let's try and make a habit of when we make issues trying to area label them ourselves when we create them now as well. But
Sounds good.
yeah, we can try and put it in the template, but I don't know, right? How are people using, yeah, most people are using the blank issues, aren't they, at the moment still, which is fine because it's mainly not for users, right? Maybe we could have one which is a new template which is just for us right now, which just has the area labels at the top of it, you know what I mean, or something like a V1 development issue, a V2 development issue, and then that basic template to remind us to do it. I don't know.
Well, that's a good idea. Like it would pre-fill already,
especially
like
one with priority needs triage. Although priority needs triage maybe is good because it highlights that it's a user one. You know what I mean? Because it's like these top 2 ones are going to be user ones, whereas the other ones are like, oh, these are development issues that we all agree are real already. But I don't know. At very least, however you create the issue, let's just try and label them with your own with area front end and area v1 or v2, and then from there, hopefully the project is not bugged out. Because now v1 and v2 are different. So let's just confirm. Oh, nah, it's bugged out. Okay, let me just fix that. Okay. And then from there on the sidebar, you should be able to see. Also, this is, you'll see kind and area are kind of same. So okay, whatever. Let's keep going. Okay, and Hashad, I think you're the only one here. Oh, you've got Adriana as well, but I think she's not. Oh,
For
she's
me,
here. Let's start with
yeah,
you,
for me, I
Hashad.
was just catching up on my P2 and just getting onto this work. I am getting started. Sorry about that, but yeah, should be having time more spending on this 2.0 work. So I'll be here more.
Cool. Yeah. So it's especially once you're onboarded on the project a bit more, I would love to me and Ed are working on like the next steps of like making sure we prioritize, you know, what we need to get an MVP out, you know, so that we can get it out definitely an MVP. And so controller will have a couple of things. I think a lot of it's going to be around adding tests just to make sure that we're confident. And so that's a great way to learn the code as well, right? That's, you know, like I can help you by explaining how Go, you know, if you've written controllers, you know how painful Gink Go is, right? You know, so like we should at least agree on a pattern, because like, you know, there's table-based tests and things that we could use with like setup, teardown. I think if you've got experience, have you got experience in that area or not really?
So we are using the Kubeflow for a while, so we have the experience of a little bit of this environment testing. So we
For
are
like
doing that.
Ginkgo though, do you like have that? Because like the Ginkgo itself
Ginkgo,
is its
yeah.
own madness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So I have the experience of
uh,
Ginkgo, but can't say how
yeah,
much
because like
depth.
let's agree on like a setup tear down pattern. You know what I mean? Because like and thinking about how to parallelize it, and you know, it's for integration, explicitly for integration tests. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
because like I think right now it's hard to add new tests because we are running them all serially and they're not, you know what I mean? Like there's, so if you have ideas for how to make that easier so that we can encourage or even require testing right now, because
Right.
we've lacked, we've done a bit of unit testing, a bit of integration testing, but we need to do a lot more of both, you know, that's, and so that we can be confident that these things actually work. Cool. So I'll put that as a thing to start looking at. Start thinking about how we can, and anyone else is welcome who's got Go experience as well, structure the, at least for the controller initially, the controller integration tests, e.g. with table driven setup, tear down, tests, you know, like way I've seen other projects do it is they have like, you know, create these resources as this part of a setup and it lists them and then it, you know, and then it tries to do so that we, because there's so much boilerplate otherwise, right? It's just madness.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Other than that, anything else you're blocked by or anything?
Not right now. I think internally we got some more priority onto this. So yeah, we'll be happy to help with this.
Awesome. Adriana?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, from my side, I start to check in case if we can have a bash script in order to deploy a kind cluster and set up the environment for the controller. Because right now it has a lot of manual steps in order to do that thing. So yeah, I take a look on this basically.
So have you seen, this PR will do everything except set up the cluster for you.
Perfect. Okay.
So you do, so I think we should not ever set up clusters for people because people could be using kind already. But and also this should allow you to use anything, not just kind, like K3D as well, which I personally prefer. But
Okay.
but so the idea here is that tilt, because this lets you, what it will do is it detects changes on your local file system and rebuilds, and without rebuilding the actual image, loads the Go code into the image itself. And so this is how we're going to solve the problem for the, so for a lot of, otherwise when you make a change, you have to rebuild an image because you can only, because it's a, because we have a webhook, a validating webhook, you actually need the container to be running in the cluster because the cluster can't proxy itself to something on your, that's running on your home host machine, right? You can run the controller on your local machine to the cluster, but the webhook can't run on your local machine. And a big, like a huge part of notebooks 2.0 is the webhook, which prevents you creating invalid configs. Like that's like a huge part of it. So if you want to help review this, please do, and then we can merge this as soon as possible. So like people have already been going back and forth on this, but if you go through it and are happy, then I am happy as well, almost. You know what I mean? I'll run through it one time as well once everyone agrees that we're okay, and then if I'm happy, then we merge this, and then we can move on to doing it for the back end, and then we can then hopefully have the front end people be very easily able to run the back end and the controller so that we can integrate the two together. Because right now the front end doesn't talk to the back end. It just has a mock, which is causing lack of pressure onto the back end to develop the features that are necessary for the front end. You know, it's like this is, yeah, I don't know. Anyone, Eder has this opinion that we should do a mocked version of the back end. Personally, I think I'm willing to do workshops with people if they don't know about Kubernetes, because there's only like six front-end people, right? Like if people want, like I can do a basic workshop which explains everything you would ever need to know to run it. But what is your thought there, Jenny? Would it, because it would impact people like you the most?
I'm sorry, I'm just here having a quick lunch. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry. I'm just saying, like, so Eder has this opinion. So Eder has the opinion that, and long term, this is probably true, that we should do a mocked version of the backend so that the front end people don't have to learn how to run Kubernetes. Maybe that's a long term thing, but in the short term, I think it's a lot easier to just have a workshop with everyone in the front end who needs to run Kubernetes of all the normal stuff of how to just like blast away a local cluster, set it one up, and then have tilt and other things just provide one command scripts to run local versions in that cluster, you know, and then because my goal is that the front end needs to actually get, as soon as possible, we need to get the front end actually calling the real back end. Obviously, the mocks will still be there for a little bit of time, and for tests, they will always be there on the front end. But for and maybe eventually those front end mocks will eventually be in the back end mock thing that Ed is talking about. But I just want to know how uncomfortable you think your team and your people would be about front end, that is, using a local Kubernetes cluster.
So I guess if there's training involved, then that makes things a lot more comfortable. But yeah, I guess long term, I think it definitely makes sense to sort of start to rely on a mocked backend just for ease of development. Does that answer your question? Or
yeah, because my goal is that the problem is right now the front end should be putting pressure on the back end to add things, but because every time the front end wants to do something, they just mock it, you know, like, and that means that they may not understand what isn't possible or what isn't scalable, and what, or they might just fundamentally misunderstand something about even the controller, you know. So like, and it means we don't have these API decisions that we need to be making right now. Like right now, the front end doesn't have any connection to the back end, right? That's my concern. So like in the short term, I think the fastest way to get that to happen is to make it so that the front end people, at least the few that we know are actively working every day on it or lots of time, know how to run a local Kubernetes cluster. But I think, as what Adriana was saying, let's get the controller and working with tilt and the backend working. The backend doesn't need to be tilt, actually. The backend can be running locally on your machine. And it should be just 2 commands. So you say like, we have a step, which is, I'll do a basic workshop on how to set up a local kind or K3D cluster. We say, run this command in the controller folder. And then if it doesn't work, delete your Kubernetes cluster and start again. And if it does work, perfect. Next step, go to the back end, run this one, it runs it locally, and then go to your front end and flip the switch which says talk to the real back end that's pointing at your local machine. And it should be enough, because otherwise our mocks are going to have to handle just so much complexity. Because like, you actually need to run the pods to see what fails, you know, and things like that. And I think that there's going to be bugs in the controller that as your front end devs are working on stuff, you're going to notice, right? You're going to be like, oh, the pod failed in this weird way, but it didn't show up in the UI. Like the backend wasn't able to tell me that it happened to make that. It's like dog fooding, you know, as much as it's unfortunate that I just want to know if the front end people are going to be like, no, they struggle to run, because it should just be a bunch of bash commands, right? Or terminal commands. That's what I hope. Like
yeah,
3.
I mean, I guess if you can minimize the commands, the bash commands as much as possible, I guess for front end developers, I think that would be much appreciated. But yeah, I think it'd be great to learn a bit more about how the cluster works, or if you have time to set up that meeting, that would be awesome. So yeah,
because we can also do a
+1.
lot of it by, I think, having scripts which try and move the state of the cluster into a specific state so that the front end looks in a particular way, you know, so like, a command which will delete all existing workspace kinds but create these new ones, you know what I mean? And then like we have like 3 or 4 test states, you know, and then the front end people can use and that's kind of similar to the mock we talked about, right? But it's just, it actually does it on a real cluster, just that happens to be running on your machine, right? And that's just, maybe that's so that then they never think about the Kubernetes kubectl commands, which I know can be a bit intimidating, but they just run bash script clean and then bash script set up state 1, which is maybe, you know, 2, you know what I mean? Like, I just wonder if that would be okay. I don't know.
So I know, I guess in our products, like like from my experience, I think like something that has been really effective for like as a front end developer is that there's just like one command, and like we just run an npm command. It's like npm run start dev ext, and that sets up the back end, and it also sets up the front end like simultaneously, so that there's no like back end command that the front end developer has to run. It's just they cd into the like the project directory. They just run that one npm command, and then it like spins up everything that they need to do. So I mean, one, like if we can get it down to 1, that would be great. But you know, whatever works best for the team at the moment is great.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. We can. Yeah. Because I think that's easier to. I think it's easier to train the front end people just with a little bit of information about what happens than it is to make a whole mocking system in the short term. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like
that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's great. I think I'm definitely on board with that, and that sounds like a great update.
Yeah. So Adriana, if you wanted to review this, are you wanting to do that, or?
Yeah, sure.
And if you're happy, then I will review it and then I'll merge it and then we can have them work on the backend version. We probably don't need tilt for the backend, but yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we can start with that.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And then other than that, anyone else got anything? Oh, so we'll say we'll review the tilt PR for controller. Cool. Okay. It's got a development guide in there too, so awesome. I see you also raised the PR that I merged as well, Adriana, right? That
Yeah, and thank you for that.
yes, there was some weirdness in there though. I don't quite know how you ended up making a parameter that wasn't used. That was the part that I didn't understand. Just when you're doing the local development, either way, it would have been picked up by linting. So just make sure you run make lint. And also make test.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so the three
didn't
commands
run
you should
this.
run locally, which I imagine are in this guide. Let me just confirm. If they're not,
Yeah, I didn't do that. I just spin up the controller directly.
Okay, it's not. Damn. Okay, make test. Okay, I'm gonna say here. I'm gonna say can we please add something about running the local tests? Running the tests locally before raising APR. Make lint. Make test for unit tests without a local cube kind, and then make test E to E. Run integration tests on a local cube.
Also, regarding this, I was thinking if we can have different environments, like normal environment, test environment, product environment, and this kind of stuff.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I mean, for example, I had to specify my registry and the name of the image when I did this PR. So if there is an external environment file to specify this kind of stuff when I do development, would be quite.
So this wouldn't be necessary. All you would need to do is run make tilt up now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll just solve all your problems. The thing that we do need to, I do think they need to understand that if we're having a development guide, we do need to explain that you need to run the tests locally. Otherwise, the PR is never going to be able to be merged. Right? Like, so, but I just asked them to do that, so they should hopefully add that. But cool, awesome. If you can manage to get through that and make it work on your machine, this will need to be rebased, obviously, so it's kind of a bit problematic. But even if you can get it running in its current state, that'd be great. Okay, cool. I'm going to leave the meeting here. We've definitely gone a bit over time. Sorry for going so over time. Thanks for coming on a holiday, or not holiday, a day before holiday. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.